It is a familiar refrain in New York City that there are too many guns. Lawmakers here have for years been trying to stop the flow of guns into New York City on the iron pipeline that Ari was talking about this morning. Mayor Adams echoing those calls over the weekend.
And let me be clear, there are no gun manufacturers in New York City. We don't make guns here. How are we removing thousands of guns off the street and they still find their way into New York City?
I was doing some research on Saturday looking into how many guns follow that iron pipeline. Some of the newest statistics on that were from years ago, 2014 numbers, 2015 numbers. Governor Hochul signed a bill last month requiring the state to compile those numbers every quarter to get a better idea about guns being used in crime. That report will look at which state those firearms were purchased in. It will look at who bought the gun, and it will also look at whether the perpetrator had a license or permit to have that gun. The Deputy Majority Leader for the State Senate, Mike Gianaris, sponsored this bill. He joins us now. Senator, you said you want to be able to keep tabs on the iron pipeline.
Well, good morning, Pat. And first of all, let me just start, as we all should, by point out that we're continuing to pray for the recovery of Officer Mora and mourn Officer Rivera, an awful, awful tragedy late last week. As it relates to the gun issue, yeah, the problem is we have great gun laws in New York, among the strongest in the nation. Since we've taken the Senate majority, we passed a lot of them. But that doesn't help us when other states are more lax. And then it's very difficult, if not impossible, to police guns crossing the border in vehicles. And so what we're trying to do is figure out a way that New York can impact the equation. And one of the ways is education. Let us know where the states are that are the problem. Let us know where to apply the pressure outside of New York. And this bill will require that quarterly data to come out. It will identify exactly where guns that are used in crimes in New York come from. And that will give us some ammunition, no pun intended, to go fight this fight even outside our state borders.
I find this so frustrating as a New Yorker, as a parent, that you can put whatever gun laws you want here. You're only as good as the state with the laxest gun law.
Well, and that has been the problem all along, hasn't it, Mike? Because you can only do what you can do in New York, right. And we can't change laws in Florida. And there they have a very different interest and mentality. And if those guns can come here, that's a major problem. Yeah. And I don't know how you fix that.
And you say Florida, we've heard Virginia as a source. A lot of it is anecdotal, which is why we want that data. But you're absolutely right. Ultimately, ideally, this problem would be solved in Washington, D.C. by the federal government. They have shown no ability to take on the gun industry and get that done. So we're trying to be as creative as we can. There is another law we passed recently in New York that Senator Zolner-Myrie sponsored that now allows lawsuits against gun manufacturers if their guns are marketed a certain way or sold improperly. So that's another angle that we're using here to try and get at it. It's a strategy that was used very successfully against the tobacco industry. And so we're trying our hardest to do whatever we can within our jurisdiction to make this happen. The easiest fix, of course, would be for Congress and the Senate in Washington to do something, but they've shown no appetite for that.
Well, and so what will it take to get some appetite going for that?
Well, I mean, it's the same problem. A lot of places outside of New York or California or some of the states in the country are pro-gun, and they don't want to see these restrictions. They make it easier to carry guns. They have open carry laws. They have all these approaches to this problem that are moving us in the wrong direction. And all the school shootings that we've seen over the last couple of decades haven't even made them budge. It's shameless. And so unless the politics in those states change, unless the people who represent us nationally take on a different approach, and let me just say, obviously, the people who represent us in Washington from New York are on the right side of this issue, but people in other states reflect the politics of those states. And so we think that maybe this approach of exposing which states are the bigger problem will give us an angle to approach. And this new law about bringing a suit against these gun manufacturers may also give us a way to get at this problem that we haven't had before as we continue to try and get as creative as we can.
It becomes this maddening conversation about maybe we can take away the worst of the guns, the guns with the most bullets in them. Maybe we can take those away. It never gets down to ultimately reducing the number of guns out there.
We're talking about gun sales. What about the guns that are already on the market? which is obviously flooded with that, and that's where it gets back to the street crime unit and everything that goes along with that.
Senator, I just got 30 seconds left here, but final thought, please.
Well, look, we have a lot of work to do. There's a big debate going on about the uptick in gun crimes in New York. It's happening all around the country, by the way. You open your Google in the morning and you see that the same kind of horrible incidents are occurring in Texas and other states around the country. And I would caution against people who are demagoguing on this issue to try and change things we've done in New York to improve our criminal laws. And obviously, bail reform has gotten a lot of attention. This incident, for example, had absolutely nothing to do with the bail laws in New York State. This person was not currently pending a charge. He was out on a charge from years ago. He'd served his time. And so if we focus the energies where it should be, we can get a lot more done than if we're distracting people to score political points.
Appreciate you here this morning. Thank you.
Thanks so much.